Yeah. It's about an 8 or 10 page presentation. I just want to show you two of those sheets if Alice can pull them up. And if not, well, I'll just talk from them.
Okay, where would those?
It was the attachment that I sent out with the agenda.
Okay,
It's a 10,
They're on the
10
agenda?
page file, presentation.
Yeah, I got it up. Does everybody
Yep.
else have it up?
Yep.
who said they do have it? I can
We all
share the
have it
screen
up
with you.
independently.
Oh, okay.
Alice, if
What
it
page are you
helps, it
looking
was
for?
on May 18th at 12:30.
May 18th. Do you want me to get it up then, Greg, or if everybody's looking at it?
Does everybody have a copy of it in front of them, or most of us?
I do.
Yeah, I'd say if you tell us what page you're looking at, Greg, we can go over you by the pages. So I'm just going to go through the first page, which is the outline of the agenda. Let me know when I can get started.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, on the first page at the very top, it summarizes all of the major commercial developments that are underway in the town center district. And I give you the name of the development and the property address. And the reason why these are important is in every one of those cases, that developer has said they plan to do their development before we do streetscape in the future phases. So what that means is for phases 3, 4, and 5, the scope of work does not include the streetscape in front of, the roadside for those developments. And that's a major, major impact when it comes to cost to the town. It's going to be much less because these costs for streetscape for all those developments I have listed are going to be on the developer. So that's just something to understand, because if one of two things happens, the dynamic changes significantly. If that developer decides not to put their project in, or we accelerate our streetscape schedule, those costs are going to fall on the town to get that streetscape in for the continuity of the phase. Now, there is a provision in the town ordinance that allows the town to assess to every developer up to 50% of the cost of the improvement. We've not done that yet for anyone, but the Board of Selectmen may decide to do that sometime down the road. Just keep that in mind.
Why wouldn't we
Okay.
assess? If they were going to be responsible for the cost anyway, it's just a matter of timing.
Because we haven't run into that situation yet in phase 1 or 2. Look at phase 1, because that was the first Brookfield Village project, and we did them together. The town said, you know what? For Brookfield Village on Federal Road, that was all borne by the town because we were the first ones in. Brookfield Village on Station Road, where Rich's Ice Cream is, they paid for 50% of that streetscape, by the way. In phase 2, there is no development planned. Pancho and Gringos, look at the new Hearth restaurant. We're going to be in before him, so it's on the town's budget, on the town streetscape budget. Now, if the Board of Selectmen at any time can decide to assess all those businesses up to half the cost of all that streetscape work, they've not gone there yet. But there's some big projects coming up, most importantly, the Enclave in phase 4, where there's a significant amount of site work and widening of the road required. Much of that's going to fall on that developer. So if you look in this presentation on streetscape phase 4, you don't see that in our scope of work. It's on the developer, for example. Now, what's new And the reason why this presentation was made to the Board of Selectmen is we had a deadline of May 14th to submit grant applications for the next round of LOTSIP funding. And we met that deadline. On May 14th at 8 o'clock in the morning, we submitted Streetscape Phase 4 and Phase 5. Phase 5 is the new phase. That's the one that's going to tie in our streetscape to the new medical office and the new grocery store at the intersection of Laurel Hill Road and Federal Road. So if you go to the sheet that summarizes all 5 phases, I think it's the second sheet in your package. And it's just it's a spreadsheet with 5 columns with every phase, and you can see what we're putting in with each phase and what the cost is. And it's just a high-level summary of every phase, just as an overview for you. So the bottom line is our applications are in for LOTSIP. 11 other towns submitted LOTSIP applications, I heard this morning, and there's going to be a vote to accelerate them or move them forward. And we can start Phase 4 and Phase 5 once we get LOTSIP or we get WestCog approval. And that's going to happen probably in the month of June. The next step for us is to have a town meeting to vote on bonding those funds, as you can see. In your package is also the letter of support signed by the Board of Selectmen from their May 4th meeting. You can see that at the end of the presentation. So we're geared up and ready to go. And in June, at the next COG meeting, there's going to be a vote to move these forward, and we'll start with future phases. Phase 3,
Greg,
the
any thoughts
engineering
about,
work is.
no, sorry, just the comment or the question. Because of the situation with the budget, is there any kind of reticence or hesitancy to move forward with some of these costs?
So the Board of Finance asked me that question, and I said to them, the Phase 5 is probably a higher priority than Phase 4 for 2 reasons. Number one, it's a significantly lower cost. And number 2, the grocery store project is on a faster pace than the Enclave project. So if they had to pick between the 2, my suggestion would be Phase 5. Now, the Board of Finance was not unanimous in their support for these projects. It won by a majority. 5 of 6 voted yes. There was 1 abstention. There you go. So thank you, Alice. So this is page 1. If you go to the very top of that slide, those are all of the development projects in progress. I talked about those. And if you go to the next page, you'll see, go ahead.
No, Greg, it just said the question, it'd be interesting to understand what the rationale was behind the dissenting vote and also the,
I don't know, I didn't,
supporting votes.
I have not asked the person that abstained why he did so. I just haven't asked him. I mean, it's his right to do that. I haven't asked.
Of course.
Yep. So I don't know the answer to that question. If anybody's interested, they can talk to that Board of Finance person. That's certainly your right to do that. So here's the schematic of the phases. You see the gap on Phase 4? That's the Enclave on one side and Green Acres on the other. Phase 3 is going to be done
What's going
next
on with
summer.
them?
I talked to Tony Lucero, that's his project. And basically that project in my words, is kind of slowed down. In part because of the virus, in part because of, I just think, financing and I think his personal priorities. He's involved with the grocery store there at the end of phase 5, and that one they're hot and heavy on. That one, they spent $100,000 to get the driveway cut, DOT approval for the driveway cut. They were in front of ZBA 2 weeks ago and got their approval for a setback variance. And they're now in front of the WPCA for their sewer connection. So that one's moving relatively quickly, and I think there's a need for a grocery store in that part of town.
Absolutely.
Greg, who's the tenant going to
Now,
be?
what's going on with Green Acres?
That's also just really slowed down. What they were all waiting for, Mel, was an intersection upgrade, and they got it. So if you look carefully on that phase 4 plan, you'll see that there is a driveway cut and turning lanes to the entrance of the enclave and to Green Acres. It's hard to see unless you're really, in fact, you have to zoom in, not on this page, but further down in the presentation, and you'll see the turning lanes on Federal Road already approved. If you stop there, Alice, this is the page I talked about. So here you can just look at all the metrics on what we're putting in each phase. And on the bottom of this page is the dollars the town is spending.
I think, Greg, this was always one of my fears. I always thought it would be the economy turning around and, no idea about this virus coming in and taking the wind out of the economy sails. I'm hoping all this still moves forward. I really do.
Yeah. No, I will tell you, I haven't talked to Tony Lucera in 2 weeks. I assume this is still very high on his priority, that grocery store project to get in. And if you haven't heard, that project also includes public parking places that'll give direct access to the Still River Greenway Trail.
What is it, additional 57 or 31? I can't remember.
60. I thought it was 60.
Well, it's a good
I
amount
don't
either
know
way.
the
I mean, it's a
number, to be
great
honest
amount
with
of
you.
parking space.
Yeah, that's a significant increase to what there is now. So it's fantastic.
So Alice, if you
So
go
what
down
store is
to
going
the, what's the name of the grocery store, Alice?
I thought it was Food
I think it's
Emporium.
Key.
Key Foods.
Oh, I thought it was Key
Key Food
Foods, yeah.
and Food Emporium are the same people.
Oh, okay.
So this is a town meeting where phase 4, this next page right here, phase 4 was actually approved with a TAP grant way back in the middle of 2019. But the TAP grant requires 25% town match. LOTSIP doesn't require that. So DOT gave us approval to reapply for phase 4 with LOTSIP funding. If we get it, we'll throw away this TAP grant application. It'll save the town about $150,000 if we get it funded by LOTSIP instead of TAP.
Well, let's hope we get that approved.
Yep.
All right, any other questions for Greg on this? I really would. I would encourage everybody.
Good job,
if they get
Greg.
a chance. I mean, I can't remember how long he did the presentation, but he goes into a lot more detail and the selectmen ask him a bunch of questions, but he goes over it for about 15, 20 minutes and it's a great presentation. So
Yeah.
I would encourage everybody in our commission, if they get a chance, go to the last selectmen's meeting. It's towards 3/4 towards the ends and it's a great presentation. So yes, thank you very much, Greg. And I'm going to just keep us moving along. Is there any other new business that we should go over tonight? You have any comments, questions? I mean, I know I just right before the meeting, I took a quick ride with my daughter just around town to see what restaurants were opening up, what was going on. And Puccinello's definitely takes the cake with what they set up. It's a beautiful tent and Jersey barrier blocks and trees all around their little encampment there. I saw 2 big kerosene heaters in there going. And the other new Italian restaurant down the road on Federal Road had a lot of outside tables. But Puccinello's
But
looked
they
like
had
they
it
had
in
a pretty good crowd going.
And Primo had it in between the alleyway? Is that where their
Yeah.
tables were?
Yeah, it looked a little bit colder there, I will say that. I mean, it was all in the shade at that point, and I don't know if I saw any heaters at that other place that you're mentioning.
It looked like
Marketplace,
Marketplace was trying to do
apparently.
something too.
Yeah, they put up
Yeah,
a big
Marketplace,
tent
they had
behind,
a-
kind of behind.
They had a tent out front for like the greeter, and then they had it looked like a new pergola they just put up recently, or at least it looked new, with a couple of tables underneath it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a slow rollout. I think everybody's a little bit leery, especially here in Connecticut. We've been hit pretty hard. That I think I know a lot of people are stir crazy and want to go out, and I think there's some people that they're okay sitting inside for another week or two maybe and waiting to see what happens.
I'm at a point I'll even eat food at a bad restaurant.
Have you been conditioned
Any
to it
other-
at home?
No, I'm cooking.
Now we know why you said it.
Sorry, Mel.
I'm okay cooking. I want the barber shops to open again.
You're looking like it.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, Pete, look, I got no issues, you know? There's not a lot to get, you know, I got my own snippers.
It's getting a little out of hand, you know?
I got you
My
beat.
wife's even starting to make fun of me.
There you go.
I started to
All
grow
right,
a
it's-
beard. Yeah. I started to grow a beard, didn't work, so now I'm working on a ponytail.
Well,
Oh,
I'm
God.
glad to see we haven't lost our sense of humor with all of this. That's a good thing. Really,
Yeah,
I
you
really
really-
I want to thank Alice and Greg for everything that you guys are doing. I can only imagine the hours that you're putting in on behalf of the town. I really do want to thank you on behalf of the commission and really everybody here. It is very strange times and everything that you guys are doing, and Allison too. I mean, just to have the young kids and trying to keep your job and your sanity, I tip my hat to all you guys. So I would say keep up the good work, and
Absolutely.
I don't want to drag the meeting on any longer than we need to. So I mean, I think at this point, I think I'll look for someone to make a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do we have a second? Alan seconded it. So I will, again, I thank everybody for attending tonight. I think, and in the future, I think, well, you'll see a few more emails be shooting around. Greg's got some stuff he's going to send us. I have some stuff we could send out. Maybe we'll have a few more topics to touch on next meeting. It was just nice to even to get back in the saddle a little bit with this stuff. So I want to thank everybody. Everybody stay safe and have a great night. And thank everybody for attending. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you. Good night.
Good night.
all.
Night.